there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be putting together days 13, 14, and 15 in my 2024 December daily. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so I'm going to be working on days 13, 14, and 15. So where I am in my album right now, let's just flip through quickly, and I have process videos for all of these other spreads if you missed that. So for day 12, I have this spread here, and this is going to be here, but I hadn't punched holes yet and it needs to be trimmed a little, but I know I'm gonna be working on the back. So I figure I'm gonna adhere that down for day 13, and then I will punch the holes. So this is where I'm starting. Let me move that to the side. So for day 13, my story is hanging out with two of my friends for craft day. One was on FaceTime because she doesn't live quite as close. So I did this in Photoshop. I just added some text onto this photo and I edited it. And so I'm just gonna crop it down, probably add my number. It'll be a pretty simple, easy page for day 13. For day 14, my daughter came over and we baked our Christmas cookies. So what I printed, I have a full page photo of our completed cookies. And then I'm gonna use one of these inserts. So I printed this photo of my new spatula that I picked out to bake Christmas cookies along with my new plate here. And then I want to, on the back of this, do some sort of like filler where I can put this little gingerbread guy and probably put my number, and I might add a little bit of handwritten journaling. I'm also thinking of adding some sort of title on here. I pulled these stickers from my stash. These are super old, and I feel like they look sort of like sugar cookies. I don't know, I was just remembering that I had these. And I was looking through it, and I do have all the letters I need to write the word cookies, but I don't have the letters for baking or day. So I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna put like let's bake cookies on here somehow. I'm not entirely sure yet, but that's kind of what I'm thinking for day 14. And then for day 15, I'm working on the back of this photo. And I was originally going to do my wrapping paper, but I decided I'm gonna move that later because I was thinking kind of what I wanted to do. And I've had a lot of full page photos, so I wanted kind of a break from that. So I looked in my products and I saw all of the prompt pages, and I wanted to use one of them because I really like them. And this one kind of stood out to me. It's the 6x8, so it's the perfect size to go on the back of this photo here, which is the full. It's actually 7x8 1/4. And these were misprinted this year on this thin paper, but that might be a happy accident for me because I'm thinking that means I can fit this in my typewriter to do some journaling down here. And I was trying to think of what story I wanted to tell and kind of what I was feeling today. And I did talk about this in my last video, how this year I'm not really worried about fitting stories to what actually happened that day, but sometimes I am. Like the cookie baking and the craft day with my friends were specifically things that happened on those days, but on days where nothing really happens, I'm kind of being a little fluid with what stories happen where. However, I was just kind of thinking about what was going on today. It's a Sunday, I'm at home, I'm crafting, and something that's kind of stood out to me a lot this year is the thought of things that I wish I had done differently to better prepare for the holiday season. So in my Hobonichi cousin today, I did some journaling of things I want to remember for next year. So I'm thinking I'm going to use this to kind of journal a little bit about how I've been feeling and thinking about this lately, and use each of these trees to add like a note to myself for next year of kind of what I wish I had done differently. Not really like, you know, in a regrets way, but just like, this is what I should do next year, or a reminder of things I did this year that I want to not forget. So I'm gonna do that, just some quick journaling on here. I'm gonna type the bottom part. And then I decided to print a full page photo that is 4 across by 8 1/4. So it's like a smaller insert to pair with this. And I might just add a little bit of embellishing on here, but I just wanted something a little bit extra. And that way I can move into 16 being on the back of this. I don't know yet what my day 16 story is going to be, but I'm thinking that that will give me, I like varying the page sizes. So I'm gonna just write in here for day 15, things I want to remember. Well, okay. Okay, and then I'm just gonna look through here a little bit. So I do still need to get my wrapping paper in here somewhere. I'm gonna actually write this down here. Mugs, new mug shelf. So this one has already been done. This one has been done. I already did a recap. This one's been done. I don't think we're gonna do this year. Okay, so, and then this one I'm doing today, so I'm just gonna mark it off. So I have, oh, and the mug swap, I did that one as well. So let's see, I wanna do my media, so I have like movies that I've been watching this year that are holiday related, and then I'm thinking of doing like a recap of all of the books I've read. That might be a 23rd one because I think that's close enough to the end of the year that I'll know what books I'm gonna read. So I'm thinking I can do 2024 reads. And then my daughter said I can visit her at Starbucks next week on, I think Wednesday is gonna be the day I have to go get her or go visit her. So, but I can really kind of put it in here anywhere. So I'm just gonna put, I'm thinking maybe I could do that on the 16th. I'm not sure. But so I have this whole week. So I have 7 days left. And I have, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 stories that I really want to get in there during this week. A work update, my wrapping paper, my daughter working at Starbucks, and the movies I'm watching, which I probably will do that maybe like closer to the end in case I watch any more additional movies. These last few days, I end up putting them together after Christmas, so I will know kind of what I've done. So that will be helpful. But, and then the first snow, we got a bunch of like little bit of snow before December, and then, which I did document on the 1st, but then we haven't gotten a real snowstorm. So we'll see if that happens. Usually we do, but this is kind of by lay of the land in terms of how things are going. I also wanted to point out, I was looking through my album here. So I have this foundation here for doing something about the lights on the outside of my house. And I don't know that I'm actually going to document that one this year. I did document on day 1 back here, putting up the lights on the house. And I haven't really gotten a good photo of the front of the house with the lights on it. And I've done that in past years. It just doesn't look that pretty without snow. So I'm thinking I might skip that one this year unless we get some good snow. We'll see. Cookies, so I'm documenting that one now. So I'm gonna leave this here, but I don't know if I'm gonna do it. This for my daughter's Starbucks. So this was for going to New York City, and that trip got canceled. So I'm gonna just pull this whole plan out of here because this just isn't gonna happen this year, which is fine. The let it snow is in case it snows. Then I had this 3 micro stories, what I'm doing around the house. I really liked this, but I'm not sure I'm gonna tell this story because I did this story on day 11, which were like 11 little pieces of joy, and some of them are things I'm doing around the house. So I might either kind of switch what this prompt is gonna be, or like maybe it's gonna be like things I'm working on around the house, like design wise, because we've been doing a lot around the house. So that might be a good story to tell. And then I had done this one for Pumpkin's Joys. And honestly, this year, he hasn't been as into Christmas as he has in the past. I think he's just getting so old. He's just, you know, resting, lounging. And then I have this one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these guys. And then Christmas Eve. So I think I'll leave the rest of these in here for now. The other thing I had thought about was I really, really, really love this paper and I want to use it. I'm thinking I'm going to use this for Christmas Day. And I had seen what some people had done. So I think it was Allie, but there's this rainbow thing, which I really love, that's in the advent calendar. And then there's a lot of these like circles and stuff that I have. I want to use this one for my wrapping paper. But something like that could be good on here, or like come together. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that I want to use this for Christmas Day and kind of scrap lift a little bit about what she did for this day and maybe have like a flip open. I'm not entirely sure yet. We'll see. Maybe I'll end the album with that and have it flip open for Christmas Day. But I definitely have this one kind of flagged to the side as one I want to use. And I'm just kind of pointing that out just to give you a feel for where I am with my album, but also just to keep in mind when you're working on yours that you don't have to sit down and work on each page in a vacuum. You can kind of be planning them out as you go and adjusting, checking in and making sure that you're using all of the supplies that you really want to use, getting all the stories you really want to tell told, and, you know, having fun with it. So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on fast forward and start getting days 13, 14, and 15 into the album.
Okay, so day 13, like I said, was very simple. I really just needed to find a way to add the number, and I decided to use one of the gold rim tags, or I guess they're not really tags, they're just circles, and put a wood veneer 13 in it. And then I wanted something to kind of ground it on the page, so I used one of the washi tapes from the main kit. You can see my washi tape drawer there at the top of the screen. I have washi tape drawers on my desk all year round. The last row in this drawer that you can see pulled out is for seasonal washi tape. So right now I have all of my Christmas washi tape in there, which includes the ones from the December Daily kit. Then I put the washi tape down and the circle, but then I wanted to do something to make that 13 pop and not have it just be wood veneer. I like wood veneers, but I feel like they look unfinished when there's nothing on them. So I pulled over my embossing powders and I picked a light blue one. And I decided that I'm going to just heat emboss this in light blue. I did talk through my heat embossing process in one of my earlier December Daily process videos, so I'm not going to go through too much detail about how I do this, but essentially heat embossing is something that it's not that hard and it's not really that messy, but it's just a few extra steps. So I tend to not do it very often, but when I'm working on December Daily, I really try to focus on having fun and playing with the products rather than just like, oh my gosh, I have to get this page done, right? Which, not that I necessarily feel that way for other projects, but sometimes I'm really just trying to focus on the end result. And with December Daily, I'm really trying to focus on the process. So even though day 13 could have been a super simple page, I could have just pulled out like a puffy sticker of the number 13, stuck it down, put it in the album, it would have been done. I decided to take a little bit of extra time to play and do my heat embossing on the 13 before finishing off this page. It's still super simple, but just has a little bit of that extra detail with the heat embossed 13, which I think came out really cute. I'm going to use some rolling adhesive to adhere this circle down on top of the washi tape. And then I'm going to adhere the 13 on there. And I believe I'm going to use some red line tape for that because although rolling adhesive works on things like wood veneer and such, because this is not going inside a page protector, I want just a little bit more adhesive so it doesn't fall off with wear and tear over time. I found that the rolling adhesive works fine for things outside the page protector that are fairly flat, like that circle, because it's not going to get like bumped as you're opening and closing the album. But because the wood veneer is a little bit heavier and has some dimension to it, I'm using red line tape. Red line tape is kind of annoying. It's this double-sided tape. You can see me like trying to peel it off here using my scissors, but it does work very well to hold things in place, especially if you're using dimensional embellishments or things that have different textures besides paper. Now I'm going to adhere this back to back with the second page of day 12 and punch my holes in it. To punch my holes, I use a single hole punch. I believe it's called like a crocodile, maybe. It's from We Are Memory Keepers, and I've had it for a very long time. But basically how I make sure that they're lined up is I use a page protector from the 6x8 album, and I clip it to my page using just a binder clip. And that way I will make sure that nothing's slipping around and I can punch my holes. First, I have to trim everything and make sure that these pages line up, which is a little bit of a tedious task because nothing's going to be cut perfectly to the measurements when you're doing it by hand, but it's still it comes together pretty nicely when you trim it off like that by hand. And then, of course, I'm going to go ahead and put this into my album. Okay, so day 14 has 2 pages to it. It has this 3x8 insert and a full page photo. And I decided to do the insert for a couple reasons. One, I really like varying the page sizes. So days 12 and 13 had a page that was not quite the full 7 inches wide of a full page in the album, but it was pretty close. I think it was about 6 inches. And so having another full page photo right after that, well, it would have worked. I like having something smaller in between them to kind of be sandwiched between the pages. That's one of my favorite things with mini albums like this is to play around with the varied page sizes. I also wanted to include this photo. I bought a new spatula for baking Christmas cookies this year. It's a completely frivolous thing because I only bake Christmas cookies once a year. So I'm really going to use this spatula once per year, but I wanted to get it in the album anyway. It was super cute. I also needed a place to hold my journaling, so I decided to add a one of the tags from, I believe these were in the main kit, underneath one of the large gingerbread men, because we were baking cookies. Although I don't bake gingerbread men or gingerbread cookies because I'm not really a fan of them, and honestly no one in my family is, I still wanted to use him because he was cute, and I thought the red on his pants looked really good with that plaid paper from the Paisley Press mini kit. I'm working through punching the holes first. Although I tend to like to punch the holes once the back is attached, I'm not going to do that here because I wanted to do this page first. And I also wasn't sure if I was going to do any like stitching on it at this point in time, which I can't have it attached to the back to the other page if I'm going to do that. And I knew I needed the other page, the one that's going to go on the back. I haven't put that together yet. But I wanted the holes there because I'm going to adhere some alphas and stuff on here. And I wanted to make sure that the holes weren't going to be in the way. So you saw I just clipped the paper I'm using for day 15 to the back when I punched those holes. And hopefully I'll be able to line them up okay later when I adhere them down. So I'm using my Sharpie Creative marker to write "Let's Bake" on top of the photo here with the white. I really love how this works. I used to use the Posca paint pens, and I found that those kind of have a lot of friction when you're writing. So sometimes little like flecks of the paint will kind of spray and get on your paper, and you don't get as smooth of writing for things like cursive. But I found that the Sharpie Creative markers are very smooth to write with. So if you're wanting a paint pen, I highly recommend these. And I have a link down in the description box below where you can purchase them on Amazon, or, just so you can see what the product is if you want to pick it up somewhere else. I'm doing my journaling here by hand. I'm just writing a little bit about my daughter coming over to bake the cookies. Nothing really that detailed because it is just a small spot here, but I wanted just a little bit of a note of what we were doing and the fact that my daughter came over to bake, which I probably would have been able to guess in the future, but not necessarily. I feel like at some point I will end up baking cookies by myself. I have definitely done it like that in the past. And every year I always think to myself, like, if my daughter's not coming, maybe I won't actually bake them, but we'll see if I ever skip them in the future. Anyways, so I put the gingerbread guy on there and decided that that was pretty much done. And then I'm looking in my stamp organization here for some numbers. So I have my stamp binders, and I have a separate video sharing how I catalog my stamps that I will link in the description box below if you're interested in catching that one. But basically, I have these binders that tell me all the stamps I have, and I was looking for a number, thinking I wanted to stamp my number for the day. But I ultimately decide against doing that. And now I'm going to just work on putting a tab on this 3x8 insert. So when I have these smaller inserts like this, I like to use those Avery index tabs to include some text or something on there. So that is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to just create an Avery index tag insert. So I really like having some of my days written out in text rather than the numeral. And I've been asking Allie to create a stamp set with the numbers written out for December Daily, or not a stamp set, but just a set of numbers for December Daily that have the words written out. That is something I really, really wish that the collection included, and maybe next year, we'll see. But for now, I'm stamping out 14 for my story, and that's going to be what's on my Avery Index tab on the one side. The other side is going to have the pattern paper that I already included in the spread. So I'm going to just go ahead and stick this into the Avery Index tab once I've finished trimming it down to fit. And that is going to be on that 3x8 insert, something I really like to have when I have those inserts, because I feel like it reminds you or kind of points your attention to the fact that there's this other smaller page to flip. I especially find it necessary when you're doing pocket pages, because sometimes the smaller pocket page will kind of blend into the one behind it, and you won't even notice that you need to flip it. I'm looking through my other stamps that I have to see if there's anything I want to use here. I end up selecting like a little star to put on there that's in red. which I thought would be just a little bit of a pop of color on this tab. And I think the red that I selected matches the red of the pattern paper, that plaid pattern paper. This stamp pad is from Kelly Perky. I don't have very many from her, but just a couple. And I liked this orangey red, and it looked really good with those pants on the gingerbread man there. So I'm going to adhere this tab onto this 3x8 paper. And then I believe the next thing I'm going to do is work on putting out the word cookies under the let's bake. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So I said in my introduction that I had that large thicker there that I wanted to put as my large title. So what I did, which I think looks really nice, is when you are layering a title to have two different types of text, one that's the larger text and one that's the smaller, and to make those fonts kind of complementary. So the ones that I used to write Let's Bake was my handwriting, but I did it in cursive. And then the cookies are going to be a bold sans serif font. And I think that those two fonts go together well. You want to not mix like two different cursives or two different printing ones or two different serif ones. Like it just, you need fonts that are different enough that they really kind of coordinate. I didn't love the way that tab looked with just the pattern paper, so I pulled a word phrase strip and just stuck it on top there. And now I'm going to move on to that cookie title. I also just wanted to say that insert does have that cursive text on it that was already on there on the front, but I feel like it's far enough away from my handwriting cursive that it's not going to clash at all. This thicker was just kind of a happy accident that I had this one that looked like cookies, and I hadn't used all of these letters, and I'm just happy with how it turned out and that I'm using my stash. I've probably had these in my stash for like 10 years at this point. So it's great to be able to mix some of those older products in with the newer ones. In between the pages, I decided to work on my page sampler here. I have been working on this not really day by day, but as I get an idea in my head for each one. And I really wanted to use these little mini gingerbread men for this day 14 because they look just like the big one, and I thought it would be a really cute nod to it. So then I moved on to day 15. So for day 15, I'm using this prompt paper with the 6 trees on it as my jumping off point, and I decided to pair it with a photo of my coffee from the morning, again just to add like another smaller insert in and just have something in the album. I'm not doing day 16 now, but I decided I wanted to back day 15's photo with one of the 3x8 papers as a jumping off point for day 16, which at this point I hadn't yet decided what that story was going to be. But I knew I wanted to use more of the products from the collection. This year, I was lucky enough to be gifted the entire collection from Ali Edwards in exchange for all of the content that I've put out for you guys. And not this content on my YouTube channel, but the content I put out on the blog. And I'm so thankful that I had that opportunity. But it means that I have so many products that I really love. and only one album, right? So I'm trying my best to use products that I love and not hoard anything and not forget about anything that's in my stash. But I might be doing a giveaway box of December daily supplies, likely at the beginning of next December daily season. So stay tuned if that's something that you would be interested in. Anyway, so I had just chose this paper that's got the gold stars on the white, and I was just trying it out with the magic word there. I really like the way that looked as potentially a jumping off point for day 16. And then I put that to the side and I'm working on my day 15 journaling here. So I'm bringing over my manual typewriter named Olive. And I have talked about this and shared this in a lot of my previous videos. I'm really, really thrilled that I got this as a gift for my birthday this year, and I have been using it a lot. But having a manual typewriter is really nice for these mini albums and these projects like this because it's a good way to add in some text without having to go to the computer. And I don't know, I just love the way that it looks. So anyways, I decided I'm going to do my journaling here across the bottom using my manual typewriter. And I'm just typing out about some of the things this season. So I have felt kind of a lot of stress this season, which I did sort of document that in an earlier story, but that's not really the story for this year or this day. The story for this day is kind of something that's been rolling around in my head that kind of popped up in my annual goals for 2025 as well. But the idea that I want to be better prepared for things in my life because there are certain things that come around every year. And I think that the holidays really highlights that every year the holidays sneak up on me and there's always things that I wish I could have done to be a little bit more prepared in terms of everything for life, but specifically for the holidays. So what I'm doing is just kind of journaling about how that thought has been kind of rolling around in my head as something I want to focus on for next year, to kind of make notes for myself and plan for myself to be better prepared for the things that come around, especially things that happen more than once, because I don't know if you guys do this, but here's a good example. I need to replace the filter in my air conditioning unit every year or 2 years. And every time I have to go back down to the basement and figure out what the one is that I need and look it up online and find a place to buy it. And, why don't I just keep track of this so that it's easy and I can just remember to buy it, every June or whatever it is, so that I don't have to, start from scratch. So that's just an idea of the type of thing that I want to be prepared for. And I do have a house journal, which does do this for things specifically related to the house, but I kind of want one that's more of life things that are not house related. And the holidays is really a place where that shows up a lot. So as I was doing my journaling there, you saw the typewriter struggled with that last line because it was getting so close to the end of the page. It couldn't hold it steady. So I ended up finishing out my text in cursive using my Tombow Funisuke hard tip. And that last sentence was supposed to say, enjoy the season. That's what it's all about. And it cut off after season. And so it was a kind of a good spot. I was just able to write, that's what it's all about with my pen. And then I used my rolling date stamp to add the date, which is going to serve as my number for this page. Next, I'm going to do my journaling in each of these trees. So my idea is to do one thing I want to remember or for myself for next holiday season in each tree. So you can see I brought my Hobonichi cousin over, and for this day, I actually did this as my journaling on the day in the daily spread. And I just did some 6 journaling things knowing that this was going to be my story for today. And putting it in my Hobonichi cousin first gave me a little bit of space to kind of think through what I was going to write. And then here I'm able to kind of summarize it in a way that fits inside of the tree. I'm using a combination of my Tombow Funisuke hard tip and my Sharpie Creative marker in white to write my 6 things here. And what I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to go back and outline all of the white words, also using my Tombow Funisuke, because that look I just like the look of outline text. Is something I do in my Hobonichi cousin a lot. And I like bringing in some of my journaling style into my scrapbooking projects and into my December daily. So the things that I added on here was stringing the outdoor lights, just a little tip to myself of how to string them on the house. Then I need to make a double recipe of my star cookies and just a few other notes for my Christmas cookie baking. That I need to reorganize my decor or storage for the end at the end of the season or maybe the beginning of next season. And that I want to order some new ornaments. I need to get a new tree skirt. And then I haven't set Christmas cards out. This is my second year in a row not doing Christmas cards. And it's just something I really need to plan in November. I need to organize my addresses. I don't have like a set place with all of my friends' addresses. So I need to do that. And that's something that I'm going to hopefully work on early in 2025 so that when the holiday season comes around, it's much easier for me to just address my envelopes and send out my Christmas cards. And then for the sixth one, it's just kind of a overall reminder that I want to get all of my purchasing for the holidays done in November so I can really settle in and focus on enjoying December rather than feeling rushed. So this journaling does take a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put some music on and I will pop back on after I finish the journaling or in a bit to share a little bit more about how I finish up this spread in my album. Okay, as I'm finishing up my journaling here, I just wanted to pop on with a few tips about journaling because I do get questions about people not wanting to do things like this because they don't love their handwriting or they feel it comes out messy. So I have to say that, my handwriting is also not the best, but I'm working on it. And I think that having good handwriting or having handwriting that you like just takes a lot of practice. So if you want to have your journaling handwritten and really like the way it looks, you really just need to practice and do it over and over again. You also need to slow down. So you can see me journaling and it looks like I'm writing pretty slowly. This is on double speed. I am writing very slowly. And a lot of times when people end up with sloppy handwriting, it's because they're writing fast. And when I do my journaling in my journal, one of the things that I focus on is writing slowly because my brain is always going so fast. And part of the reason I like journaling is to try to slow myself down and think things through and calm myself. So writing slowly and focusing on my handwriting is a good way to do that. it also makes my handwriting look more the way I want it to look. I also recently heard a tip from Helen from the Coffee Monster Co. that really kind of stuck with me. And she said that one of the things that makes people's handwriting look good isn't necessarily that their handwriting is actually good, but that it's consistent. So that really struck me because I love her handwriting, but then I've looked at her handwriting close up and you think, wait, this isn't actually that great of handwriting. It's not like the letters aren't perfectly formed. So why does it look so good? And it's because she's consistent. It's because every single E looks the same and every single G looks the same. So that's something that I'm working on with my handwriting. So something that you could work on with yours is just practice writing the alphabet and make sure you have a way that you want to write each letter, and then just practice on doing it the same every single time. So it doesn't have to look like anyone else's, but it's going to look good because it's going to be consistent. So hopefully those tips kind of help. I also want to share that as I'm doing this outlining, I'm using the Tombow Funisuki Hard Tip, which is a marker that you can use for brush lettering, but you can also use it for super thin lettering and outlining. To do that, you just have to barely press the marker down, which is something that is hard for me because I tend to grip my pen really tight and really press, but I'm working on writing lighter, especially when I'm using this pen, and it's really coming out better. So looking at this page, it doesn't look perfect. The letters look a little wonky. Things are a little bit all over the place, but that's okay because it looks like me. It looks real, and I'm happy with how it came out. So I finished up my journaling, and the next step is to get this into the album. So I'm just going to move my Hobonichi cousin out of the way and start adhering things back to back. This one is going to go on the back of the page with the cookies, or the photo of the cookies, which are also, I think I forgot to mention, but they are on a new tray that I picked up this year. I did make similar cookies that I have made in the past, but I did get a new serving tray. So I really was excited to take a photo of the cookies on that new serving tray. Then I'm going to just trim everything, or I think it looks good as is. Nope, I need to do a little trimming. And then I need to put everything into the album. So for the second page of day 15 here, I have that photo of my coffee mug in front of my tree, and I don't end up adding anything to it. I considered adding some embellishments. Oh, actually, no, I add one little embellishment, but I considered adding a lot of different things. I was thinking I could use it I can make it a little more decorative. You know, I've done some of these inserts with a lot more decoration and time-consuming pieces this year. Earlier, if you saw like days 10 and 11, those were really detailed on the insert when I made the little strand of Christmas lights. But sometimes I like just a resting place. So what I did was I picked one of these chipboard word freeze strips and just centered it on the base here and found that that was just going to be a good way to finish off the page. On the back, I have that gold star, and I'm going to do that for day 16. But here is a look at days 13, 14, and 15, how they came together in my album. I also will probably add an Avery index tab on that second page there once I am finishing up page 16, but for now I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to move my album out of the way and work on my sampler page a little bit more before finishing up this video. I have a couple of days to fill in here, and what I'm trying to do is just use what I did for that day for decoration as a jumping off point. So for day 13, I did the heat embossing on wood veneer, so I'm going to do the same. I'm going to heat emboss blue on this wood veneer star. And I'm going to put it on one of those gold rimmed circles, and I'm going to back it with the washi tape. What I was a little annoyed with was the day directly above this one had that same washi tape because it just happened to fall 5 days apart, the 2 days that I used that rainbow washi tape, which was a little annoying because I would have preferred that they were not lined up. But because of that, I had to get a little more creative with how I was doing this day on my sampler page. I end up doing, I think, all of these except for maybe one. And then I wrap this up. For the day 15 one, I do I'm looking for like a pink paper, and you'll see that in a little bit, but I don't find one. But because these are so small, I end up repurposing a ornament from the ornament paper to get a piece of pink paper. So keep in mind that you can use papers like scraps from papers for other things. It doesn't have to be the image from the paper, especially when you're doing something this small. And it's fun to have to come up with a creative way to represent each page on here. At the end of the month, when I'm done with my album, my plan is to use my typewriter to type out a couple of words for each day to highlight what the story was. And I'm going to add that to each of these little tags, and I will then add a title on it. And this will probably live inside my Project Life album for the second half of 2024, because it will be kind of just a page that kind of says, hey, I worked on December Daily this month, and this was a big piece of my life at this point in time, since it is a separate album. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.